So the strange thing about Dr. King is we all venerate him. Nobody ever speaks ill of him, but also he's basically ignored. So he's in this uncanny valley where he is not exactly canceled, but he's also not listened to, which is a strange place to be in. It speaks to the moral authority and credibility that we feel his message has, the awkwardness of acknowledging that the main thrust of anti-racist activism is exactly the opposite of what he stood for. That's a very awkward thing for the anti-racist movement to acknowledge, because they would lose some moral credibility if they outright said what is true, which is that we reject Dr. King's goal. That's the truth, but that can't be said out loud. The other thing about what's often said about Martin Luther King, if you look up Martin Luther King radical, you will get 20 to 50 of the same exact article. And what that article says is, you can read one and you've read them all. Martin Luther King was really a radical. And all of the centrists and conservatives claiming his message and claiming that BLM is perverting it, well, they haven't really read Dr. King, and they're quoting him out of context. And Martin Luther King really would have been for everything we're doing, making everything about race and reparations and affirmative action and so forth. The strange thing about this is that there are, I've read, hundreds of pages of Martin Luther King's speeches and writings, and virtually every 3 or 4 pages, there is something that, if said today, you would be canceled for. That's just the truth. It's trivially easy to find 20 Martin Luther King quotes expressing the colorblind ethic in the simplest terms, and very difficult to find any quotes of him expressing that race is a crucial aspect of your identity to dwell upon and affirm. And the grain of truth to him being a quote unquote radical was squarely in the domain of economics and foreign policy. Martin Luther King was a pacifist. He wanted out of the Vietnam War at a time when it was very difficult to say that publicly, and he was discouraged from saying so publicly. He was considered a radical at the time because of that. Of course, the Vietnam War, in retrospect, is not such a radical opinion today to judge that to have been a mistake, right? And he was also for things like full employment and universal health care, which again are not considered so radical today, but at the time were considered radical. So the domains in which he was radical had nothing to do with the ultimate goal with respect to racial identity. They had to do with economics and foreign policy.